Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Ivan Blasquez here. This presentation that follows my little introduction here is a presentation Dr. Fuhrman made for his book, The End of Dieting. And it was originally 57 minutes. I went ahead and just skimmed it down to 21 minutes. I just kind of took the clips that I found most, I guess, intriguing and kind of the highlights, if you will, and put them together. So I hope you enjoy that. Let me just kind of fill you in on a few things that he touches upon that I thought were very, very telling and also very confirming of kind of my own, mindset and beliefs here. He talks about how the fat loss and health interaction. So when you eat foods and that promote fat loss, it also promotes health too. And I've been saying this for the longest time that being lean can also be a sign of being healthy. And I think that if the lifestyle is contributing to leanness, so when leanness is earned through nutritional, excellence and quality and a sound exercise program and all the other things that go with it, then you're putting yourself really in the best case scenario. So he also talks about IGF-1, but he really gets into the science of this. And he talks about IGF-1 and how it influences fat storage and also the disease interaction. So the influence of IGF-1 on fat storage and disease risk. He also talks about, this is really cool, the high biological value animal proteins. We always hear about, eggs are the gold standard and whey and the high biological score. Well, he slams the hell out of that. He talks about how that maybe actually we've had it backwards this whole time, and I actually tend to believe in that. I personally think that plant proteins are more dilute, unlike animal proteins, which are more concentrated sources of protein. So in a sense, the fact that plant proteins have a lower biological value may actually be a better thing. And this whole time we were thinking it wasn't. And the only reason why we were thinking it wasn't is because muscle. We're just thinking about the slab of tissue that's sitting on the surface. What about everything else that goes on in our body? We got to use our head. Don't just think about muscle. Yeah, muscle's connected with a lot of things. I get it. Having more muscle, sarcopenia, longevity. I've seen those studies, that correlate strength with mortality. I've seen those studies. But you also have to be aware of everything else going on in the body. What other interactions does these high biological proteins have in the body? And he touches on this in the video. And lastly, if it fits your macros and reverse dieting, this is a rebound setup. It's a disaster. And he actually talks about this. Not in the context that I just, said it from a bodybuilding perspective, but he talks about it from a health perspective, but just kind of encompassing it the way he said it, he pretty much slams the hell out of that bodybuilding dogma and that approach. Taking a calculator or your smartphone, figuring out the calories. Look, counting calories is helpful, but it's missing the bigger picture, and he touches on it in his presentation. So without any further ado, here's Dr. Fuhrman, and feel free to leave comments and questions below. And as always, I thank you for watching, and enjoy.
Stop starving yourself. Diets just don't work.
Instead of dieting, I want you to learn about and eat more of the anti-cancer foods, because the same foods that inhibit cancer growth also block the storage of fat on your body and will keep you slim and healthy your whole life.
Dr. Joel Fuhrman is a board-certified medical doctor specializing in preventing and reversing disease through nutritional and natural methods.
Business, because the diet industry is spreading misinformation that is hurting and killing people. Only together can we put these predators out of business. After I share with you how harmful and lifespan shortening dieting is, I'm going to give you an effective alternative based on eating more food, not less. The secret is to eat lots of foods that inhibit fat storage on the body. The foods you can eat for the rest of your life that will keep you at a healthy weight forever. Instead of dieting, I want you to learn about and eat more of the anti-cancer foods, because the same foods that inhibit cancer growth also block the storage of fat on your body and will keep you slim and healthy your whole life. So in this program, though it's about weight loss, is really about longevity too. as it could add 20 quality years to your life. And as opposed to dieting, the difference is that with my nutritarian lifestyle, when the fat melts off your body, it'll stay off. The results are permanent, not temporary. And the side effect is that you will prolong your life and protect yourself from heart disease, strokes, dementia, and cancer, all at the same time. And you won't ever have to count calories or eat small portions again. All right, the two primary fat storage hormones are insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. Sugars, sweets, and white flour products raise insulin production, and insulin promotes cell growth and angiogenesis. I know some of you may have thought angiogenesis was the first book of the Bible, but it really means the growth of new blood vessels. So insulin promotes fat storage and the growth of blood vessels to supply the highways needed to bring glucose to fuel the growth of more fat. If you did not hormonally support angiogenesis, your body can't get fat. First, must consider the diet most Americans eat, the standard American diet, often called the SAD, or SAD diet. The SAD diet is sad. Sad that it's created an epidemic of heart attacks, strokes, and cancers, and a sickly, drug-dependent nation. We're eating ourselves to an early death in this country, and eating so much processed foods, sweets, and meats that it's making a nation of sickly and emotionally disturbed people. You see, Americans are eating predominantly processed foods and animal products. It seems unbelievable that over 55% of calories in the American diet is from sweets, processed grains, and oils. And if we remove the white potato, the total amount of fresh produce, like fruits and vegetables, is less than 6% of total calories. This is revealing, because Americans are eating mostly animal products and commercially prepared baked goods and oils. And that means about 95% of calories Americans eat do not contain those nutrients that protect against cancer, specifically antioxidants and phytochemicals. Most foods you're eating promote weight gain because they stimulate fat storage hormones. Instead of burning the calories for energy, these hormones make sure what you eat gets turned into fat. If you're like most Americans, the only time your weight goes down is when you're in an elevator. But the most powerful inducer of cancer cell replication is excessive levels of IGF-1. It's called insulin-like growth factor because it's a hormone shaped like insulin, and it can bind to the insulin receptor and act like insulin. IGF-1 can powerfully promote growth, and that means growth of abnormal cells and cancer. And it promotes fat storage too. We know that it's mostly the processed foods in the American diet that promote excessive insulin, but it's the excessive amount of animal products in the American diet that promote dangerously high levels of IGF-1. Like turning on a spigot, when you increase the percentage of animal protein in a diet, IGF-1 is turned up accordingly. In this slide, reproduced from a study published in Aging Cell Journal, you can see low IGF-1 levels measured in vegans is below 150. And that is much lower even when compared to people restricting their calories in general, and the average American on the right with the highest levels. What we learned in elementary school about the value of high biological protein was upside down. Now we know that the lower biological value proteins in plants are more lifespan favorable and more than adequate for our body's needs for protein. Quite alarming is another huge investigation published in the journal Cell Metabolism. They followed thousands of people for 18 years in the 50 to 65 age range and found death rates went up 75% and cancer rate climbed 400% in those eating what researchers called a high-protein diet. They considered the diet high in protein if it averaged 18% of calories from animal protein. But that's still less animal protein than most Americans are eating. This graph depicts the data in this study showing as a person's intake of animal protein increased, the risk of cancer and death went up accordingly. This means that if you eat 25 servings of animal products a week, such as meat, chicken, fish, cheese, or eggs, as most Americans do, you'll have a 400% increased risk of cancer and a 75% increased risk of dying prematurely, compared to someone eating animal products 5 servings a week or less. But there's another critical point I'm making, and that is some of the most popular diets, such as paleo diet or the Atkins or Dukan diet, are encouraging people to eat much more animal products, even more than twice as much as Americans generally eat. And that's twice as much as what these studies consider to be high protein. The increased risk of cancer from these popular high protein diets could be frighteningly higher, and certainly tremendous suffering and needless premature deaths is occurring because of this. And if you want to kill yourself as quick as possible, you can mix sweets in with the meats, pushing up insulin and IGF-1 simultaneously. Heightened levels of both those hormones are an important reason why Americans are so overweight and cancer-prone. Macaroni and cheese, a ham and cheese sandwich, meatballs and spaghetti, pizza, all these foods mix high glycemic carbohydrates together with the IGF-1 stimulating foods, creating a population burdened with life-destructive medical problems and food-induced deaths. That's why so many people think Darth Vader developed these common American foods. How many of you have dieted, lost weight, and then gained it back again? You're not alone. And what you don't know is that it's not your fault. First, you received the wrong information. And second, manufactured foods are designed to make you a food addict and set you up for food cravings that are just too hard to control. Here, you're finally going to get the right information that can set you free. The lipogenic enzymes, fat storage enzymes, are ramped up with caloric restriction. And after you lose some weight on a diet, those fat storage enzymes stay in an excited state for months, making weight regain occur quickly after you go off the diet. So if you go back to eating anything like you were before, you'll actually gain weight at an accelerated rate. And in most cases, even overshoot the weight you were before you began the diet. But there's another serious problem that develops. When you regain the weight that you lost, it deposits the fat somewhat differently. The fat is then stored more internally, in more dangerous places around your organs. You see, there are two types of fat on your body: subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. Subcutaneous fat is right under your skin. It's the fat you can pinch at your belly. But visceral fat is the fat behind the layer of abdominal muscle. You can't pinch it, as it's mixed in with your internal organs, deeper inside you. When you diet, you lose mostly subcutaneous fat. When you regain weight after dieting, you put back more visceral fat. So every time you go on one of those crazy diets, you increase the amount of visceral fat on your body, because it's visceral fat that makes you diabetic and is more cancer-promoting than the fat you had before you dieted. So if you want to get yourself closer to death, convert your subcutaneous fat to visceral fat by dieting and then gaining weight back again. When you yo-yo your weight up and down, it also increases your risk of heart disease because more fat is placed inside your blood vessels, too. That's why so many heart attacks occur on or right after holidays and vacations where people have gone off their diets and binged on food. So 4 things happen to your fat stores after you diet and then gain some weight back. Number 1, your stored fat becomes more visceral. Number 2, your stored fat becomes more saturated. Number 3, the blood vessels become more vulnerable. And number 4, you become more insulin resistant and diabetic prone. Here are 2 women, the same age and weight. Do you know which one is more likely to have developed pre-diabetes already and headed for diabetes in a few years? And the one at higher risk of heart attack and cancer? It's Jill, the nurse on the left, because she's gone and off lots of those high-protein diets in the past and has lost and regained weight 6 times, whereas Jane just stayed overweight the whole time. You're going to be amazed how easy it can be to turn this all around, how easy it can be to get to your best, healthiest weight and stay there forever and end dieting forever. Don't you want that? But we've made it socially acceptable to use food like a recreational drug, and we celebrate self-destructive eating and ostracize people who do not partake in the self-destruction. You see, the problem is that unhealthy foods are powerfully addicting, and the only way to get rid of food addictions, cravings, and out-of-control eating behavior is by flooding the body with the right nutrients from healthy foods. These nutrient-rich foods contain the micronutrients that can repair the distorted biochemistry causing the addiction and the overeating. Most diets have you restrict calories, struggle to eat less, or recommend some ratio of fat, carbohydrate, or protein that they claim will help you lose weight. Let's look at these concepts, because they're the problem, not the solution. If you try to eat less, you get even less micronutrients in your tissues, which just drives you into an uncontrollable binge. That doesn't work, because our bodies are starving for those nutrients. And avoiding fat or avoiding carbohydrates is not the answer either. Some people claim fat is bad and to be avoided like the plague, and other people blame carbohydrates. Some recommend a high-protein diet. Some recommend a high-carb diet. Some recommend low-fat. Others recommend high-fat. Wow, no wonder you're all so confused. Who do you believe? Clearly, there are too many cooks spoiling the brew, and their brew isn't good for you to begin with. Obviously, we need the right carbohydrates to fuel brain function and intelligence and positive emotions. And we need the right fats to fuel brain function, intelligence, and to maintain a positive emotional outlook on life. So I'm here to tell you that you should throw all those diet books in the garbage. Throw them all away. Now is the time to all agree on some basics that are impossible to deny. The scientific literature demonstrates that it's not the fat content or the carbohydrate content or not even the protein content of a diet that makes it good or bad. Focusing on those issues misses the entire main thrust of what's important in human nutrition. It's the nutritional quality of the fatty food, the nutritional quality of the protein-containing food, and the nutritional quality of the carbohydrate-containing food that matters. And low nutrient carbs, fats, and proteins are the main reason we develop heart disease, cancer, dementia, and obesity. The main focus must be on achieving excellent micronutrient intake from natural whole foods. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. And micronutrients are present in copious amounts in fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds. It's the consumption of micronutrient-rich foods that can repair your revved-up fat storage hormones and melt the disease-causing fat right off your body. It's the consumption of micronutrient-rich foods that can protect you against heart attacks, strokes, cancers, and dementia. So the question you should be asking before you put something in your mouth is, are the carbohydrates you are eating full of fiber and micronutrients or not? Are the fats you're eating from a whole food, like an almond, or made into a processed, into a faked food, like oil and poured out of a bottle? I want you to categorize foods into two main categories, fast food and slow food. Let me give you an example of a fast food and a slow food, because the secret to losing weight and keeping it off forever is getting rid of the fast food and eating more slow foods. Let's talk about what fast food is first. Fast food can be eaten fast, it's digested fast, and it enters the body fast. And when this high caloric load enters quickly and all at once, that's a big problem, because your body can't burn all those calories for energy. So it has to be converted to and stored as fat. The term fast food conventionally refers to foods found at fast food restaurants, where they're high salt, high calorie, highly processed, mass-produced fast food meals. Undoubtedly, eating at fast food restaurants is dangerous to one's health. They inject their French fries and breads, those high glycemic carbohydrates, with extra sugar and salt, and even pump the chemical-filled meats and cheeses with extra salt and sugar too. These weapons of mass destruction are present on almost every street corner in America. But I want you to categorize foods that flood the body with empty calories quickly as fast foods too. I call the staple of the American diet fast food, especially foods made with sugar, flour, and oil, what I call the three stooges of American cuisine. When you eat a donut, for instance, the white flour and sugar enters the bloodstream within minutes and causes a spike in insulin, the body's response to the surge in glucose in the blood. Actually, it's so effective at stimulating fat storage that when you eat fat and sugar together, the body can store fat as efficiently as you injected the fat right on your waist with a syringe and needle. Then the fat or the donut gets stuck around your organs and heart and your waist, just like reverse liposuction. Note on this graph that fast foods can enter the bloodstream rapidly and cause a caloric surge that stimulates fat storage hormones and dopamine release in the brain, which drives food addictions and cravings. The dopamine high is the same as taking narcotics or illegal drugs. These foods turn you into a Pac-Man in your own food cabinet. Slow foods, on the other hand, do the opposite. Note the slow foods, such as beans or nuts, their calories enter the bloodstream over a few hours, and the body can burn them for energy, not store them as fat, and they do not stimulate food craving receptors in the brain. When you eat slow foods, you simply desire fewer calories. When you eat fast foods, insulin and dopamine spike up high, and you become an eating machine. Let me show you some examples. Soft drinks, white bread, white rice, French fries, apple juice are foods with a high glycemic load, which enter the bloodstream rapidly, while, on the other hand, steel-cut oats, wheat berries, sesame seeds, azuki beans, and an apple all have a low glycemic load, which enter the bloodstream slowly. When the calories enter the bloodstream rapidly, insulin spikes up. That tells the body to ramp up the storage of fat. However, if you use an intact grain, such as steel-cut oats or wheat berries, then the exact same grain food has the opposite effect. The wheat berry is not finely ground into flour, but it can be soaked in water and cooked. It can be sprouted and coarsely ground to make a bread, a veggie mushroom patty, lots of different things. Likewise, the steel-cut oats could be made into a cereal, stew, soup, or dessert. But it's important to note that all oils are fast food. Here's sesame oil. It contrasted with whole sesame seeds. The difference, of course, is that at 120 calories a tablespoon, the oil is the most calorie-dense food you can eat. Eat 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil a day, as most Americans do, and no way could you lose your excess weight. It only takes 5 minutes from your lips to your hips, because your body can store that fat so efficiently and quickly, and the calories rush into the bloodstream so fast that the brain gets a dopamine rush, promoting food addictions, which drives more overeating behavior. And this goes for olive oil, too. If only Popeye could have known this, he would have not wasted his time chasing olive oil, and he would have stuck to the spinach. But what I'm telling you today is that beans are a powerful weight loss food. So, shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anyone the secret to permanent weight loss. All right, fine, here it is. You eat more beans, greens, and onions, because besides protecting you against cancer, they contain fat-reducing phytochemicals. Remember, you eat more beans, greens, and onions to lose weight. You don't count calories. Repeat after me. Onions, beans, and greens are the secret to getting lean.
Onions, beans, and greens are the secret to getting lean.
Right, you got it. Besides eating healthfully, the second part of the equation is activity. Being healthy is not all about diet. It's also about exercise and purpose in life. But more important than exercise is avoiding staying sedentary for more than an hour. In other words, if you sit most of the day, you're going to be shortening your life, and you're going to find it more difficult to keep your weight favorable. Scientific studies demonstrate that sitting most of the day is as bad for your health as cigarette smoking. It's critical that you take activity breaks mid-morning and mid-afternoon so you not remain sitting all day long. And exercise equipment is everywhere. It could be a chair or a flight of stairs. Of course, exercising with the wrong equipment can make you fat, especially if that equipment is only a knife, spoon, and fork. So I want you to work part of the day standing up. So if the phone rings, stand up and answer it. And Talk on the phone while walking around. Take frequent breaks from work and go up and down a few flights of stairs. But when you come back, prop up your laptop or your working space on top of a platform so you can work standing up for a while. I want you to learn some basic exercises that you can do anywhere, right in your office, while sitting in a chair, or even on a plane. So intersperse some exercise into your day. Don't sit for more than an hour at a time. Try to remain standing for at least 15 minutes after each hour of sitting. A nutritarian lifestyle, a lifestyle scientifically designed to protect against disease and push the envelope of human longevity, involves eating healthfully, remaining active, enjoying life and other people's friendship, and caring about others. Thank you for coming today, and thank all of you at home for listening and learning with me. I wish you great health and much happiness always. It can be yours. Thank you.